So I sold the Volvo just after 3 months, and to be honest, Volvo was just a placeholder for what I was actually looking for, which was a pickup truck. So I was looking for a Volkswagen Amarok, but they are insanely expensive, even for the ones that are known to have issues. Then Isuzu D-Max, you get a really old one for that kind of money that I was looking at. So I decided to buy the cheapest Ford Ranger.
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous, but I don't give a fuck, I'ma keep chasing. I got all this potential that's deep inside of me, but they hate when you're successful cause they try to be. They sit there being judgmental because you're trying things, and they just want you to settle and do the right thing. So get a good job, don't slack off. Wake up every morning, make a good impression on your boss. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do, and when you're making money, make sure you don't spend it too soon. Fuck.
So after you went to look at 2 of them, this is the cheaper one of them 2, and he's actually in much better nick than the other one. It's a Boss Spec Edition, this, like no cruise control, no AC, bare minimum. So this was actually a waterworks recycling centre vehicle. Like it was a counter loan or something, and I bought it. It's got 167,000 miles on it now. I've owned it for about 6 months now, and I think I bought it for 160 on the clock, and it broke within 2 days of owning it. Well, I knew he had some issues when I was buying it. Nothing major, but I knew I had some issues. He didn't leave me stranded, just put me in the limp mode, and what happened was the intercooler just burst. 80 quid later, I replaced the intercooler, all fixed, but I knew there was an oil leak on the bottom from didn't know where. So I started investigating it, and I thought, oh, it must be the rocker cover gasket because it was coming from the top. Started googling, and then I still was driving it. I just was keeping an eye out on the oil level, and then it started smoking from the exhaust, like white greyish smoke. So I've asked in the forums, looked around, and I was saying, oh yeah, engine's toast, you need a new engine, especially with that sort of mileage. I was like, I don't really believe that. I know this car was maintained very well, even though I don't have the book. I know it was very well maintained because I called up. There was like a card for a garage that maintained it, so I called that up. They said they can't give it to me, but they can say it's been maintained very well. So everything's been done on it, all the recall's been done on it. So I was skeptical, so I decided to go away, just forget about it, carry on driving. It was getting worse, but then I decided, oh, let's get the rocker cover gasket out the way. And then I thought, these got copper washers. You have a quite thin washers and injectors, so I bought a kit to replace the washers, pulled the injectors out, replaced the washers, cleaned it up, and guess what? Car stopped smoking. Oil leak is gone, everything works great. I fixed that, all was great for about 4 months, and now it started smoking again, but I'll get back to that. So this is the smaller 2.2 6-speed manual. They also did the 3.2 and also in automatic. Everyone was saying they are super slow, and I didn't believe them. Oh yeah, they were super slow. But once I filled it up, I put some injector cleaner in, changed the oil once or twice. It was like dead clumpy. I think it's been standing around for a while. Oh boy, it helped this car so much. Like I've never seen such a difference just by doing basic maintenance properly and putting some injector cleaner in. It made such a difference. And while I was in there, I took off all the piping, all the manifolds, everything. I've cleaned them up, put some oven cleaner in there, jet washed them out, and once I've assembled it, honestly, this car flies compared to what it was. Like, it's still slow, obviously it's slow, but it's so much quicker than what it was. Like, the EGR caked up everything. So if someone's saying that these are slow, they're probably just neglected. Like, it's not fast, but it's quick enough, if that makes sense. You can actually blank off the EGR on these without getting a check engine light. There was also, I've noticed there was like a rattle coming. That was like, on it for about a week. I've noticed there was like a metal rattle coming from the engine, but it wasn't inside of it. It was just somewhere in the engine bay. So when I was pulling all these pipes up and everything here, I've noticed there's like a bracket that's got like studs snapped off the head, I mean block. I think it was meant to be there to like be supporting the injection pump, but obviously it was doing more harm than good, so I've removed it and the car seems fine without it. I'll flash it on the screen what it looks like and where it was. And when I was putting the leak-off pipes in, I managed to actually snap a brand new leak-off pipe inside the injectors, and that was a pain to get out, but managed to thread a self-tapping screw in and pull it out that way, and all was good. So once I got it home, started driving it, there was no check engine lights, nothing on the dash. Well, I plugged my scanner in and I got a code for speed sensor or something in the back. Well, that's a bit strange. Why there's no ABS or nothing like light on the dash? Oh yeah, because the dodgy seller put some tape over it, and in the process managed to snap the reset button there. So I pulled the cluster out, took the piece of tape out, and then I started investigating what was actually wrong. So I replaced the speed sensor that was saying it was wrong, didn't fix it, so started chasing the wires down, and I figured out it was one of the wires that was frayed. So if they actually did what they were meant to do, you know, they didn't have to go through the hassle of taking the cluster out. So this is actually a transit engine. It's just the pipings are a bit different. They're well known to be rubbing through pipes, especially intercooler pipes, because of how the engine's placed and everything. People give them grief, but people run them on a tight budget. So if you take care of these engines, they're actually pretty good engines from what I had a look online. People don't maintain them. They let the EGR cook itself, clog up the entire engine, and that's it. They tell you, then the garage tells you all you need entire, you know, new engine or all injectors. So most of the time you just need to clean it up and replace the washers on the injectors because they burn through. Came with some lights which do work. One was snapped off, I fixed it, but they work now. The thing about this car or truck, whatever you want to call it, is since I started driving it, I thought the headlights were shit. Like they were so dim, like so dim. So I polished them up, came out super clean. I've used a product called K1. It's like a paste you just rub on, and then it, you know, gets all the, you know, basically it just cleans it up. It takes literally 30 seconds, but it doesn't last forever. He pretty much was back to how it was within 4 months. So I've done it again, and you can clear coat it, but I don't have the patience for that anyway. But they're still dim. I've tried all the like light bulbs you can get, but today I think I upgraded the headlights. I actually put some projectors in. I just need to clock them to make sure they don't blind anyone. So we actually came with a Truckman top, which retails for about £2 new. I didn't actually want the top, but it came with it. So, and I broke the lock on the back within like 2 days. So now I just got a rope. I've got my work stuff in there. Oh crap! Like he's not in the best nick. He's got a bit of a dent on the back, like someone reversed into something. The bar on the bottom was super rusty. I've sanded that down, painted it. And I also installed a reverse camera because obviously you can't see nothing in this. Absolutely nothing. She's a big girl. She weighs like 2.2 tons. She's long, about, what is it, 6 meters long. So she's, you know, she's big. And she barely fits in a normal parking spot. Like width-wise, length-wise she sticks out a lot. You can sort of see there's some writing in there, like recycling something. There's some left over there on the door. See this? Someone tried to touch it up, but you can still see it. And the worst bit is this. It's not a hole, it's just, you know, paint came off and bubbling. There's one there as well, so I'll probably sand that down and repaint it. So how much did I pay for this piece of engineering? Well, let me get back to that. When I was looking to get any pickup truck, I don't know what's going on Facebook Marketplace, but there's more scammers on it than actual real listings. Like you see a deal, it's like, oh, £4 for a Ranger, that's pretty good. So I messaged the seller, oh well, I'm just selling it on someone's behalf, here's the email. And if you follow that email link, they said they're out of the country, you know, just send a deposit and then they'll bring you the car and someone, then you pay the rest. No, that's all a scam. Literally, it's so hard to find anything on the Facebook Marketplace now, because most of those things are scams. So I ended up finding this one on Gumtree. So, and I paid for it 6,700 quid, including VAT. So I think I did pretty well, especially that there is no rust on the chassis. So I'm quite happy with that. There's no knocks, there's no bangs. There's only annoying thing is when you sometimes go into first, like the actually gear lever squeaks. I'll probably show you in a second. But what can I say? It's just a normal work truck. So it's nothing fancy. The seats are actually surprisingly very comfortable. There's not much wear and tear apart from the steering wheel and the floor mats, but I'm going to get new floor mats anyway. This is the first mod I've done. It's a reverse camera with a dash cam, so you can see front and back as well. So this helps you with parking a lot. So that's how I usually have it. And the reason why I didn't want to get a Navara, because Navara have no leg room in the back, so actually you can't put an adult in the back comfortably. So this is actually quite spacious in the back. I was surprised. There's storage underneath here, behind here, so you can actually get loads of stuff in here without putting them in the bed. I'm actually quite happy with this purchase, but I just wish it had aircon and cruise control. But there's probably a way to add cruise control, but AC is probably not. And now winter's coming, I don't think there's any point thinking of AC. So I'm going to probably get new wheels or paint the steelies. So this is actually rear-wheel drive, unless you switch it to four-wheel drive or high or four-wheel drive low. So it can actually skid, which it happened to me once when it was quite wet outside and I had nothing in the back, and the back stepped out a bit. So it has plenty of torque, it just doesn't have the power, you know, to get you to higher speeds. But it does shift. It does shift, especially once I've cleaned up the engine, sorted everything out. Honestly, it does shift much better, especially if you don't run it on supermarket fuel. It's a big difference in this. If you put supermarket fuel in this, it's a dog. I mean, it's a dog anyway, but not as bad one. So yeah, you can select your driving modes, not modes. So that's your for normal driving, 2 high, 4 high and 4 low. So that's your normal rear-wheel drive, and then now if you switch to 4 high, obviously it becomes 4-wheel drive, and then 4 low, you know, a reduction. Don't really have a use for that. It's only needed if you're like driving off-road all the time. You have like heavy stuff in the back. But to be fair, the interior is quite nice place to be. It's comfortable. The radios is actually pretty good, like the speakers. You know, it's obviously was meant for work. This is like the actual working class, not like working spec car. Everything's plastic. There's no leather. There's nothing that can wear out. Everything's like robust. Obviously in the Limited you could get better stuff, but Limited is quite more expensive. One thing wrong with it now, that's there's a few little things, but they're just like wear and tear parts. But one thing that's wrong with it now, sometimes when it's warm and I shift gears, some smoke comes out of the exhaust, and I can see it in my mirrors and in the camera as well. So there's some smoke, but it doesn't do it all the time. So what I'm thinking is I've either over torqued or under torqued one of the injectors, or you know, I didn't clean the injector seat quite well, because it drives fine and it only does it on hot days. So that's what my thought process is now. Some people say, yeah, it's your EGR cooler leaking. It's not, because the water level is always the same. Your EGR cooler is quite a common issue on these, but this one had it replaced twice. Obviously the blind spots on this are quite big because your pillar is massive, and then your mirror, you know, the entire car's disappearing that. So you really have to be careful. But other than that, once you get used to the size, it's pretty easy to drive. You just have to be mindful of your width and length, because your overhangs are quite big, especially in the back. So when you like turn in a sharper corner, what can happen is you can you know, snag something if you're not careful. But other than that, it's quite easy to drive. Hear that? But it's like, it's not in the gearbox, it's like somewhere in the linkage here, so I'll probably just have to, you know, grease it. Oh yes, these lights are so much brighter. I only replaced them today. I just need to, you know, align them properly. And I don't want to get it muddy because I just washed it today. So I'm not going to go crazy on this. So I think it's about 150 horsepower. There's no point doing a remap because you can't really get much out of it unless you do some modifications to the engine, which I'm not planning on to, because it's doing its job. I bought it for a purpose and it's doing it. So the bulbs I put in are like a combination. It's got its own reflector, so you just pretty much plug and play. All you need to do is, you know, angle them. But that's a bit finicky, so it's like it takes a few tries to get it done. But the difference already, even in daytime, it's quite big. Obviously it rattles and everything because, you know, I got stuff in the back just jittering about. But you can go over speed bumps without actually slowing down. This car gets more comfortable if you've got loads of stuff in the back, like weight, because it's obviously got leaf springs in the back. There's a quite big aftermarket for these, which I was actually quite surprised, especially from Australia. They're quite popular in Australia, these trucks. There's a one guy that I've watched loads of videos from, he's very useful, he's got loads of videos on this. I'll link him below because he's worth a watch. And he pretty much convinced me to buy one of these because I was looking at older Hiluxes, but they're a bit too old. This is a 2012, and Hiluxes in like this price range are, no, like 2005. There's not such a thing as a cheap Hilux. And then you got the L200s. I don't really like the look of them. My granddad's got one, so, and I wanted the Amarok bad. Even the ones that got the bi-turbo engines, the early bi-turbos. I went to see one. It was in such a rough shape, and he wanted $8 grand for it anyway. So I sold the Volvo for exactly the same amount that I bought it for. So the Volvo only cost me a light bulb and a service kit. So the Volvo was pretty much a placeholder. I wanted to try it. I knew I wasn't going to keep it for long, so we'll use a brand new Ranger. I think they start on like 45 grand, maybe one day. Steering is actually quite light and surprisingly very responsive. I thought this is going to be, you know, quite a lot of play, but there's no play. Obviously it drives like a boat because it's so tall. The suspension travel is quite big, but it drives quite nicely. I'm surprised how well it drives. So it does get going. Like, it was stupid slow when I got it. Like when I took that charge pipe off, and to be fair, I would never have taken the manifold or the charge pipe off if I wasn't replacing or looking for where the rattle is coming from. So it's one of the things people don't really look for, but it was caked up. I'll put some pictures on the screen of what the charge pipe and all that stuff looked like when I took it off, and it made a huge difference. What do you think of my purchase? I think I did pretty well. Like I had a look a few days ago that there's none for that kind of price, especially in this good of a nick. Like I do have, it's quite a high mileage one, but mechanically it's quite alright, and I think, you know, it's been quite taken care of, even though it was like a company vehicle, so anyone could, you know, thrash it. Like clutch is smooth, you know, everything drives, everything works. But there's not much, to be fair, to break on this, because it's just an engine with a gearbox. There's no electronic, even the climate control is manual. You know what I mean? So this car so far cost me about 300 quid in parts, including like maintenance parts like oil and filters. So it's not too bad actually for 6 months. That's pretty good going in my case, because I just buy utter scraps on wheels. So pretty good going. And what am I planning for this vehicle? Well, you'll have to tune into the next video to find out. So if you have any questions, pop them in comments below and I'll try my best to answer them.